Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co., and this is my top 100 games retrospect, analysis, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be going through a bunch of things regarding my top 100 games of all time as of 2023. The list of 10 videos that I've already gone through on the channel, you can go ahead and check those out, possibly down below, or just, check top 100. They should be easy enough to find, whether I have a link then down below or not. But with that, basically 2023 has come and gone. I know that because we're in 2024 now, and I've done my top 100 games once again. Every single year I do the series, directly inspired by Tom Vasel and the Dice Tower, I should say. Credit where credit is due and all that. And much ado about Gloomhaven and all those things, but we're going to go into some of the, what I consider more interesting things about the top 100. At some point, I'll probably do a full, Power BI presentation, analytics and all that, similar to what I did with Tom about his top 100 a few years back. But for right now, I still just kind of print things out. But I really should start getting mine into an actual database where I can compare, contrast, do things with a lot more, data analytics coolness to it. But anyway, with that aside, we're going to go ahead and go through this. I will, of course, timestamp the various sections to go through. We have things from, we have the oversights of the top 100. We have the games that dropped, the games that got added. We have some of our, let me go through these sheets of paper over here. We have our games that dropped, our games that got added. We have the 21 titles that have been present every single year. We have, sorry, I lied about that. We have 41 titles? No. I have to go through my notes here. We have a bunch of things. We have the titles that have been present every single year. We have the 20 titles that have been the best possible. Oh, that's what it is. The top 20 games across the past 4 years, the highest aggregate ratings, the biggest drops, the biggest additions. We have the games that I haven't played at all in the past year. So there's around, what is it? There's around 20 or so games. Nope, there are, 27 or so games or so that I have not played at all in the past year. Basically a bunch of sections, but I'll timestamp all those sections, and then from there let's go ahead and start this off, starting with oversights. So, oversights is exactly what it sounds like. These are the things that I kind of should have thought of, but missed some way or another, or something happened. I don't know what in some cases I do know what. But basically we have, I would say, 5 games that I consider oversights to the top 100. One of them in particular, I don't know what happened. I just don't know. I don't know how it got, missed from the top 100. And I even did a video of the 20 games that missed the top 100. Effectively the 4.5s, the games I rated a 4.5 that didn't make their way into the top 100 games of all time. Practically speaking, in terms of games that are in my collection and all that, I have 120 total games that are ranked a 5 or a 4.5. And 100 of those made their way into the top 100 and 20 didn't. But then we also, 122 because there's 2 more over here. So to that end, the first 2 oversights, the games that were missed in the top 100 that absolutely should have been present in the top 100, and I do not know what happened to them. We have Radlands, which would have been fairly high too. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I got bumped or missed or something, or if it's literally just an oversight. The nature of the way I do these lists means sometimes things could get missed. But even when looking at my own database of stuff, it was rated at 4.5. It just didn't make the cut. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what happened. The Radlands is a 4.5 to me, and a higher ranked 4.5. If I had to guess, I'd say this probably would have ranked somewhere in the range of the top 50 to 70. But Radlands is an excellent game from Roxley Games that should be there, and wasn't. The real question, the interesting bit is, if a game should have been in the top 100, when I'm doing my analytics next year, do I count it as a new addition, or does Radlands no longer get credit for? It's whatever. It is what it is. It is what it is. Radlands is gone for right now. I'll figure out what I'm doing next year about that stuff. But for right now, it's Radlands was not there, and it should have been there. Lacrimosa as well from Devere Games is another game that I thoroughly enjoy that should have been in my top 100 games. And again, don't know what happened to it, and it wasn't even in the retrospect video either. Again, do not know what happened to it, or was it in the retrospect video? I don't think it was. I think at the end of the retrospect video, if you watch that, not the retrospect, if you watch. This is the retrospect. If you watch the 20 games that were missing from the top 100, I believe towards the end of that, I'm pretty sure Lacrimosa is in the top 100, but I checked after and it wasn't. I don't know why. I don't know. Emerald Flame is another one. That one's not there, and I understand why this one was missed, which is that one as an escape room style game. It's not one that I consider, it's not one I have in my collection, and so I'm going through the games in my collection because it's no longer there. I missed out on it, so I don't really have a great answer for Emerald Flame, except to say that it should have been there, but I missed out on it. But I argue, especially as a game that I finished this past year, I would argue that that one is one that would be in the top 100 for now, although I could see it drifting out. Escape room style games, legacy games, all those kinds of styles of games do run the risk of moving out over time, but when they're fresh, they are still present, and so Emerald Flame probably should have been there. And then the last two I talked about in a different video already, but that's going to be Tigris and Euphrates. I do think deserves a spot in the top 100 games of all time, based on my own personal opinion of how I rank those things. And again, the whole Gloomhaven discussion is a discussion. If you missed that, I did a full video about that. But to me, the top 100 games of all time is not a ranking of the games I played this year. It's not a ranking of the games I want to play this year, but it is a moving target. It is a ranking that is based on how I feel about games, based on how I've continued to experience those things. Which means while it's not exclusively for games in my collection, it has a very high overlap with games in my collection, because a game that I got burnt out on, which happened with Gloomhaven's no longer eligible for the top 100 based on my lower interest in it. It is a moving, iterating list, and I understand that might not work for some, but that's just the way I'm putting these lists together. But as far as Tigris and Euphrates, in that video I kind of realized that Tigris and Euphrates should be on the top 100. I don't have Tigris and Euphrates in my collection purely because of a limiting factor that I always win that game. I have played it enough times that I always win it. But I still love it. I still want to play it. Just practically speaking, I don't pull it out with my game group because I am better than my game group at that game. This is hopefully not an arrogance thing. There's like 3 games ever that I've said that about, and they are all games that I've just played far, far, far more. For context, those are Galaxy Trucker, Tigris and Euphrates, and A Few Acres of Snow, and I'm running the risk of Mythic Mischief being that problem. To be very clear, I do not think I am better than most people at those games. I do think I'm better than my game group. Put me up against, again, another competitive player, I will probably lose pretty quickly. But within my own game group, those are just games that I consistently win at, and that makes them a little less fun. Mythic Mischief, I'm not there yet, so we'll see how that one plays out. But the other 3, I don't remember the last time I've lost any of those 3 games in person against people in my personal life, and so yeah, they're gone. But Tigris and Euphrates I still think is amazing, I still love it, and so it does deserve a spot on top 100, and it will be there going forward, probably. Then we have Pandemic Legacy, which is a similar kind of situation, but in the case of Pandemic Legacy, I have played through the first Pandemic Legacies. I played through Season 1 twice, I played through Season 2 twice, and I played through Season 0 once, and I am happy to play through any of those again. Genuinely, I expect to play through them again. Pandemic Legacy is a game system that I've had enough fun with that because I'm still happy to play through it again, because I am not burnt out in it, even though it's temporarily not in my collection, I still think it should be on the top 100. Again, these were impacts of your feedback or approach to whether Gloomhaven should or shouldn't be, and again, for me, it still won't be, but it did make me reflect on Tigris and Euphrates and Pandemic Legacy. So those are 5 oversights of games that I feel should have been in the top 100, but weren't. Now, a different question is which 5 games would have been popped out from the top 100. I guess inherently, if you're looking at purely literally, the last 5, including, we have, by the way, Vindication as my number 1, Project Elite as my number 100, just, you know, book ending this video over here. But I guess the top 5 games in my top 100 would have been bumped out to some extent. So, again, it just is what it is. So that's going to be the oversights of the top 100. As far as the games that dropped from last year, specifically we have 38 games that dropped out of the top 100 from last year, although more really 36, and I'll explain why that is. Now keep in mind, we don't have that many additions. In terms of additions, we only have 30 that are new to the list, because practically speaking, when I'm doing this, I consider new to the list to be something that's new to the list from any of the prior years. To me, it's less interesting if a game, you know, if a game was here 2 years ago and then it briefly popped out and popped back in, I consider that less interesting. So I have 30 that are new to the list entirely, and even then has, I think, an asterisk, so I think it's technically 29. We'll explain that when we get to it. And then we have 38 games that dropped out, which again technically is 36, which we'll explain when we get to them. And to that end, going from all the way the highest down to the lowest over here, we have, and in general, by the way, as usual, they usually happen in the top bracket. So effectively, from these 38 games, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of them were from the top 50. So 5 games dropped out of the top 50, and the other 33 dropped out of the 50 to 100, which makes sense. That's where you're going to see the greatest amount of movement in the list. Although 38 is still a higher amount than I would have expected, but it happens. We have Ares Expedition at number 100. Number 100 and drop straight out. We have Tiny Turbo Cars number 99. Let Us from Whitechapel at 98. So the top 3 were like straight out. Then 97, whatever that was, is still safe. But The Mind at 96 popped out as well, which I'm disappointed in myself because I like The Mind a lot. But maybe just time and influence and all those things. Marvel Zombies Heroes Resistance dropped out. That was 95. That's one of the asterisks. One of the changes I'm making this year is I'm not including doubles. So if we have Everdell and Everdell Farshore, it just counts as one, and I'll talk about both of them when I get to the higher ranked one. So Marvel Zombies Heroes Resistance, while it technically dropped out, it really just got bundled under the general Zombicide category. We have Framework at 94, Oracle of Delphi at 93. Framework dropped primarily. In fact, let's go through why they dropped. Ares Expression, Tiny Turbo Cars, Last from My Chapel, Framework, or from those three, or The Mind. I think those are all just, very at the top of the list, and they're games I feel strongly about, but not as strongly. We have a Framework, which definitely saw a drop in terms of how strongly I felt about Framework over this past year. I really liked it a lot when I started playing it. It is a lighter game, and that has definitely softened my experience. Oracle of Delphi at 93. I think that's just the price of new things entering the list. I still love Oracle of Delphi. I don't think my opinion has changed significantly. Resurgence at 92. That one did leave my collection. The more I played Resurgence, the more I found the experience to be very similar in terms of the way I approached it. And as much as I do like it and recommend it, I got maybe 7, 8 plays out of it, and then I eventually moved on from it, which is still not a small number of plays, but it's also not a huge number. There are other games I think I'd prefer over time. I think my ranking for it probably stays the same. My rating stays the same, but it definitely did drop for me. Baron Park at 91. Again, maybe it's just time. Baron Park is a lighter game, and the fact that it's held this steady is still impressive. We have Cockroach Poker Royale at 90. It's a great game. I've played it a whole lot and just shifts around. Empire's Age of Discovery at 89. I haven't played the game in like 4 years, and to the point that I almost got rid of it this year. In fact, it was in my Purge video, although I did have second thoughts after the video and decided to keep it instead. We have the Reckoners at 87, which I saw a comment actually. Someone, if you're watching this video, someone commented, "Hey, I just noticed the Reckoners not on the top 100. You're correct. It did drop out. I think the Reckoners is really, really well done, but it is still just, dropped out. It has shifted a drop down for me. Nothing crazy. Bus at 85. Bus did leave my collection, and again, Tiger Snake Fate is a good example of just because you left my collection doesn't mean that I will take you out of the top 100, at least going forward. But in the case of Bus, I don't think it would make the top 100 again this, going forward. Mexamines at 81. Great game, but it just, I don't know. I like it. I've played it again since, last year or whatnot, but it's still 81. It's good, but it's not going to be sticking there. Guards of Atlantis 2 at 80. Guards of Atlantis 2 is an interesting one. I love the game. I do find it's not the easiest game for me to get out and table, which does influence how I feel about it. Not just in terms of, the player count's maybe not bad. You can play as a 4-player game. Technically, you can play as a 2-player game if you're ambitious, but Guards, in my opinion, has shifted a bit on it. Still great. Still in the collection. It's somewhere in the collection. But Guards of Atlantis, that's number 80 last year, dropped out. Viticulture 79. My feelings in Viticulture have definitely softened. It is a game I could see leaving my collection. Not anytime soon. I don't think it's leaving yet. I still like it a lot. I have all the stuff for it. I enjoy the game, but I definitely have softened on Viticulture. Cartographers at 78. Still a great game, just not top 100. Caverna at 77. Honestly, I could see that popping back in if I play that one more. That is one that I got a bunch of plays of it in 2022, I guess. And then I don't know if I played it at all in 2023, and I think that softened how strongly I feel about it. Again, I recognize some people want that permanence aspect. The permanence aspect to me, the more I play a game, the longer you can last without being played. Again, Coinverse is a good example. Coinverse is a game that was my number 16 game this year, and I hadn't played it in like 3 years. So just because I haven't played it does not mean you're gone, but it is a factor of how strongly I feel versus how much I play. We have Lacrimosa at 76, which dropped out and shouldn't have. So I guess technically, if you're counting the games that shouldn't have dropped out, we have not really 36 even. We have 34 games that dropped out, but they still did. Gollum at 74 did drop. I am curious about that one. I still really like Gollum. It's safe for now, but it's fighting against too many excellent Euro games. I don't know if it's safe forever in my collection in general. Mage Knight the More Game, 73. I could see this popping back in next year. I've actually played it a bunch this year so far, which it's just a hard game to table. And I have mixed feelings on Mage Knight. It's consistently a very, very hard game to table, but when I do table it, I have a ton of fun with it. So what do you do with that information? You just keep trucking on, doing the best you can. Isle of Cats Explore and Draw at 71. Still a great game. Just it may have dropped out, but still a great game. Kingdom Rush at 70. Absence makes the heart grow fonder in some cases, and in other cases, it makes you forget how much you like it. I still like Kingdom Rush. It's just been so long since I played it, although I did just finally get the new Elemental, whatever stuff and all the big boxes, which really makes it seem like it's so much easier to table. And looking forward to tabling it again and seeing how it fares. I could see that one popping back in. Roleplay Adventures at 68. A great game, but definitely it's one that started off strong. It started off like here, rose to here, and then as I played it more, shifted down. And again, some games hold up to a lot of playtime, some don't, at least for me. And in the case of Roleplay Adventures, it didn't hold up to continued play for me. I think it was a great experience, and I mean, last year it was, what was it? It was 68, which is good, but it wasn't even the best of the best. I think by that point I was already tuning out of it. At 66 we have Sky Tier Horde. Still a great Sky Tier or Sky Tier Horde? Sky Tier Horde. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Sky Tier Horde, because I don't think I ever put Sky Tier in my top 100. It's a good game. I've never really played it enough though. Sky Tier Horde though at 66. I am surprised it dropped out of my top 100. For whatever it's worth, I am surprised. I think Sky Tier Horde is a great game. It's hard to say. That versus Marvel Champions is always an interesting comparison, because it's a great game. Both are great games. Sky Tier Horde, though, it did drop, but I'm curious on that one. Hadrian's Wall. I have softened on Hadrian's Wall. At 65, Hadrian's Wall has definitely softened for me. That's one where I liked it a lot, but the more I've played, the more I've gotten bored of going through the same motion. So it's not one that has held up to continued repeated plays for me. Raj of the Ganges at 64. I almost feel it should be back in the top 100. Raj of the Ganges is a great game. I'm pretty sure it was in my 20 games that missed the top 100 video, but Raj is excellent. I'm looking forward to playing again. The Rule of Smog, Rise of Moloch at 62. Technically, it's not out of the top 100. That one I bundled together with Master of the Universe. I consider them the same system. They are different, but so are Everdell and Everdell Farshore, versus the Rule of Smog, Rise of Moloch, and Master of the Universe very much feel like they're built on the same DNA. They are different enough that anyone who disagrees with me, I completely get that, but they are the same enough that I'm bundling together. We have Bunny Kingdoms at 61. I wonder why that dropped. That's still a great game. I still like Bunny Kingdoms a lot, so I'm curious if that one pops its way back in eventually. I've even played it this past year, so it's not a lack of recency even. I don't know. I think it's a good game. We have Hoplomachus Victorum at 58. I've softened heavily on Hoplomachus Victorum. Even at the time of putting it in my top 100 last year, by the time I filmed it versus by the time I put my list together, it had already dropped for me. Hoplomachus Victorum is a great game that I definitely have gotten burnt out on. I'm curious if the expansion stuff brings it back. Some of the quicker play modes do help it for it. 7 Wonders at 56. I don't have a good answer. 7 Wonders has consistently been an excellent game for me. I'm surprised it dropped, but it did. Assassin's Creed at 53. It's just a hard game table. That's the Mage Knight problem. It's got a big campaign thing. It's not the easiest table, but it is still a great game that I very heartily recommend. I think that was in my 20 games I just missed the top 100 video. We have Lorenzo Magnifico at 51. It's just too much heavy Euro competition and not enough heavy Euro games getting played, and just heavy Euros are pushing other heavy Euros out. Cloudspire at 44. I like Cloudspire, but again, Assassin's Creed, Mage Knight, Cloudspire, some games that are hard at the table do lower. They get lower just based on how I feel with them. We have Radlands at 43. Should have been on the list. We have 7th Continent at 37. That one is an interesting one. And again, I think that maybe along with Tigers, Invaders, and Pandemic Legacy, 7th Continent arguably should be here. That's in a weird gap where I got rid of 7th Continent because I'm getting 7th Citadel, so it's a weird gap zone. Arguably, it should be on the list. Le Havre at 32. I'm disappointed it dropped that hard. I'm disappointed. I don't know. It did drop, and I can't stop it from dropping, but I am disappointed. And then Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. Gloomhaven and or Jaws of the Lion at number 3, and that I did a whole video on already, so that's enough of that. Which brings us to the 30 new to the list. The games that are 30 of them are new, 29-ish. I say 29-ish because Master of the Universe is new to the list, but again, that's kind of in the same space as World of Moloch, Rise of Smog, or World of Smog, Rise of Moloch. So that's that. But going again from 100 down to 5, these are the ones that are new to the list. As usual, you have most of the changes in the top half, although in terms of the ones that left, we have 5 that left the top 50. Versus over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 10 if you ignore World of Master Universe. 11 that have been added to the top 50. So still more of the movement is on the upper echelons, but definitely some things got bumped up. We have Project Elite at number 100, which I was surprised to see has never been on the list before. I totally would have expected it to be, but it was not. Acropolis at 99. So Clover at 97. These are both solid games. Acropolis didn't make it last year? Huh. That's interesting to me. I played it by then. Maybe I'd only played it at Gen Con. It's possible that by the time I did this list last year, I'd only played it at Gen Con and hadn't yet given it more plays. But Acropolis I like a lot, 99. So Clover at 97 continuously grows for me. My City at 94 continuously grows for me. Resident Evil the board game at 88. That is still new to the list. That's a recent addition from Steamforge, but a fantastic game. Ragnarok's at 86, still somewhat new-ish, but great. Rolling Heights at 80, phenomenal game, I love it. Ruination at 79. That's one that I actually had a kind of resurgence on it. Well, resurgence is a different game, but I had a resurgence of in my interest in Ruination. I like it a lot. I don't know for how long it'll fare. It's in that area control genre, which is heavily contested, pun intended. We have Last Light at 77. We have Trailblazers at 75. Run at 74. General Orders World War II at 73. Apiary at 67. Zaya at 66, which I'm surprised is new to the list, but I guess because I already played it by then. I don't know, maybe just more plays, more interest, I don't know. Beast at 64, Marrakesh at 63. I'd played Marrakesh last year, but I'd only played it one time. I got a bunch more plays since then, and it added to the list. We have Wayfarers at 62, Massive Darkness at 59, 20 Strong at 58, and then in the top 50 we have Encyclopedia, which missed last year's video, unfortunately. Just it didn't arrive in time, so otherwise it would have been on the list. We have Master of the Universe at 38, Ticket to Ride, Legends of the West at 37, at 33 we have Revive, at 28 we have Sankori, at 21 we have A Feast for Odin, which should have been on the list last year, but was an oversight. We have Unsettled at 20, which should have been on the list last year, but I forgot about it. We have Expeditions at 19, The Witcher Old World at 18, For Northwood at 8, and DEI at 5. So a whole bunch of games that have made their way up there. Some of the ones I feel particularly strongly about are going to be Sankori, Feast for Odin, Unsettled, which again, I don't really consider those new. Those two should have been there last year. Things get missed. But yeah, Sankori, Expeditions, Witcher Old World, For Northwood, and DEI. All fantastic new games that I'm very comfortable with them being in the top 100. I do wonder where they'll stay or adjust. Like For Northwood made its way to in the 8. I could see that staying there, and I could see it slipping out. I don't know. As the lighter games do tend to shift around more because they're lighter and they don't hold up as well. But I do think For Northwood will hold up decently, but we'll see how decently. Which brings us to, let's go ahead and actually jump around a bit. Let's go to the games I have not played this past year. So these are the, and I didn't record the number, but it looks like around 27-ish or so. These are the 25-ish, 27-ish games or so that have been in my top 100 that I have not played in 2023. Now, disclaimer sake, because someone might say something, or, well, disclaimer sake that I'm pretty sure I haven't played them. I did not go through my top 100 and check it against my log plays every single time, and sometimes I forget things. Like, I remember recently I was doing a video where somebody asked about the Great Wall Solo, and I was like, oh, I never played the Great Wall Solo, sorry. And they're like, you literally have a filmed playthrough of you playing the Great Wall Solo. And I was like, that's a fair point. Meaning my memory is not perfect, I forget things, but from scanning my top 100, these are the ones that I believe I have not played in 2023. So, and again, this is just interesting, because like one of the things I got when I was talking about the whole Gloomhaven conversation around the nature of it, there were a bunch of people who were like, oh, so it's the top games you've played in 2023, and I'm like, no, it's not the top games I've played in 2023, like several people had that kind of takeaway, and it's not. It is my interest in them as of 2023, and in some cases, games cannot be played for years and hold strong, and in other cases, they shift away. Everything is variable, but it is an ongoing tempo of how things fluctuate. But yeah, anyways, these are the 25-ish, 27-ish games or so that I have not played in 2023, but are still holding strong on my top 100. And going from the top down, we have Project Elite at number 100, Resident Evil the board game at 88, Quad Heroes at 87, Carson City at 85, Kemet at 84, 5 Tribes at 72, Root at 71, Endless Winter at 69. I was surprised I had not played it this past year, but I haven't. I played it a bunch towards the end of 2022. I have like 4 or 5 plays in 2022 towards the end, just those last 2 months. But, I mean, a bunch more in the beginning, but just the last few months, but then I haven't played it since then. We have Dominion at 68, Zaya at 66, Istanbul at 60, which is a crying shame. Istanbul's fantastic. Lancaster at 57, Mosaic at 56. I hope to actually be playing that one shortly. We have Troyes at 55, City of Spies at 53, Rum and Bones at 52, which once upon a time with one of my friends was a yearly tradition, but a yearly tradition that got skipped in 2023. We have Marvel Champions, meaning like once a year we specifically get together and play it, plus whatever other plays I get, but we didn't do it this past year. Marvel Champions at 50, which I think that's a lie. I'm pretty sure I have a stream of me playing Marvel Champions in 2023. It might be end of 2022, but I think it's 2023. So Marvel Champions probably did get played. We have Machina Arcana at 49. Through the Ages and New Story Civilization at 48. I'm not including digital plays against the app. I have logged those, but I don't think I've played it against a person in 2023. So depends how you count that one. Concordia at 46, which I should play. Fuche Magnet at 45, which I've tried to play. Brass Lancashire at 43. I played it September of 2022 last, I believe, at WSBG, in fact. Bruges at 36, which again is a crying shame. Oathsworn at 22. I have an ongoing campaign that I started with Meg to do a whole film playthrough series, but then other things took precedence, so we'll get to it eventually. We have Coimbra at 16, which I discovered recently I have not played in 3 years, which is a shame. And then we have technically Everdell at 4. I have played Everdell Far Shore, but I have not actually played Everdell in 2023. So those are games that I have not played in 2023 that were still on my list. Which brings us to the top 20 games. You know, let's do that one last. Let's see. Let's do the drops, and then we'll do those. I'm doing this out of order. So we're going to do the biggest drops and the biggest rises. These are the ones that are still on the list, because technically if you drop from 50 to 0, that's a point, either 50 to off the list, that's at least a drop of 50, but I don't have a way to measure that past telling you already that's off the list. So the biggest drops. The biggest drops are, I guess I could have done you could put together a bit of an just a numeric aspect where it's at least that much. Because if it dropped from 50 to off the list, it's at least a drop of 50. Maybe it's more, but it's at least 50. But either way. Anyways, the biggest drops over here, the 10 biggest drops and the 10 biggest additions. So, the 10 biggest drops going from least to most as a far a drop. We have Through the Ages going from 27 to 48. So again, all of these are going to be structured as Through the Ages in 2022 was my 27, and in 23 was my 48. And again, as mentioned, have not gotten plays with real people this past year. Through the Ages, 27 to 48. Parks from 67 to 91. Parks is still fantastic. I still haven't played the expansions though. That might change, you know, if it gets a resurgence, it might be because of the expansions. We'll see. Burn Cycle from 52 to 81. Fantastic game, just hard to table. Crokinole from 7 to 42. I don't have a good answer for why it dropped that much. I think Crokinole is fantastic, and I've played it a bunch this year too, so I don't have a good answer for why it dropped, but it did drop nonetheless. Valeria from 60 to 96, which I feel bad about. Valeria's amazing, but it dropped. Carson City from 47. Oh, by the way, these are from, so Through the Ages is a drop of 21. Parks is a drop of 24. Burn Cycle's a drop of 29. Crokinole's a drop of 35. Valeria's a drop of 36. Carson City is a drop of 38 from 47 to 85. Still a fantastic game. It does make sense to me that it dropped over time. Blood Rage dropped 46 points from 8 to 54. I just consistently, as Blood Rage shifted out of my top one spot, my best game of all time spot, I have noticed that, not because of that, but the same reason I dropped out of my best ever to, you know, from to 8 and then now to 54, is I am finally getting a little stale on it. Is it a great game? Yes. Is it still in the top 100? Yes. Do I expect it to be here for a long time? Yes. Is it shifting around? Yeah, it is. I've played it so much. I've seen all the strategies. And again, the same people who are upset about Gloomhaven, like, you know, well, if you played it so much, shouldn't that be a testament? Yes, depending on how you define the list. But for me, Blood Rage has shifted downwards. My desire to play it over time has gone down. Which again, but my whole argument that I gave in my whole Gloomhaven thing, the reason I don't mind that shift is there are games like Castle of Burgundy that I played 86 times this past year, which is more plays than I've ever logged for Blood Rage, and it's still holding strong. So the amount of time a game can get and its impact on the list over time, that to me is interesting. Endless Winter dropped 48 from 21 to 69. It is still fantastic. I found it is not held as well as Lost Winds of Arnak or Dune Imperium. Specifically, the expansions elevate those, and the expansions of Endless Winter don't elevate it. They don't make it worse. They don't make it better for me. Calico dropped 51 from 42 to 93. I don't think that's a symptom of anything other than just me playing it a lot. I've gone through the entire solo campaign several times, actually. Gone through it a bunch in person. It's a great game. And we have Arena of the Contest dropping 62 points from 28 to 90, and that is a direct reflection of me spending the hours I've spent in the system and finding that while I still think incredibly well of it, it has definitely shifted down. And again, disclaimer, I do a sponsored series around that game as well. As far as the biggest rises, the ones that have jumped the most, we have coming in at a change of 11 points from 18 to 7. We have the Castle of Burgundy. Again, played it 86 times this year, and it only went up for me. I've already played it once today as well, by the way. We have Marvel United jumping 15 points from 54 to 39. I was pleasantly surprised to see that Z Garcia put it as his #1 game of all time. Like, sometimes I wonder if I'm crazy about that game, and then other times I realize that other people are also crazy about that game. We have Codenames jumping 18 points from 35 to 17. Codenames continues to hold up time and time again. It does not shift. We have The Loop jumping 18 points from 48 to 30. The Loop, again, continues to hold up play after play and improving it even. Hanamakoji jumping 19 points from 63 to 44. One of the best two-player games I have in my collection and continuously doing well. The Quest for El Dorado jumping 20 points from 34 to 14. It's just that good. We have Everdell jumping 21 points from 25 to 4, which is interesting considering I hadn't played it. But again, I think playing Everdell Farshore did bump up just how much I appreciate Everdell as well. They do mentally go in the same category for me despite being different games. We have The Crew jumping 22 points from 69 to 47. I saw Mike Delisio finally put it on his top 100 at the very tippy top, but Mike, you got time. We have Lancaster jumping 27 points from 84 to 57. Fantastic game. I don't have a good reason for the jump though. I don't. But it did. We have Airland and Sea Criticism Award jumping 72 points. So to be clear, the second most was 27, and Airland and Sea Criticism Award jumped 72 points from 82 to 10. I don't know listen, at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we're all flawed, and we all do things based on any given point in time. I don't know what's up with Airland and Sea. I am curious to see what it does next year, because, like, why is it so high? That's a 72-point jump. I mean, I like the game, I do, genuinely, but top 10? I am curious to see where it ends up next year. And again, I redo my list every single year from scratch. I don't look at the previous list. I just completely resort them. There is going to be that mental bias of me remembering things to whatever degree I do, but we'll see. We'll see where Airland and Sea goes. At the end of the day, I don't mind a big movement. I mind being true to myself at the time I put these lists together. Which brings us to the last category over here is going to be a degree of longevity over here. So we have two things to go over. They're the same but different, but we have the top 20 games across 4 years. So effectively, while I've been doing a top games of all time list for 5 years now, the first year I did it, I only did the top 20, which isn't enough data to really use, so I'm kind of ignoring that. I'm shoving it off to the side. Rather than focusing on 2019, 2020, 2021, no, 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023. I have 4 years of doing a top 100 list of all time. Technically in 2020 I did top 50, but I actually did all 100. I only filmed top 50. So I actually have the data for that. So like I did it that year. But anyway, so we have 4 years of data here. And that across those 4 years, what is the highest average rating? Now for context, what I did here is if you got a score of 1, my number 1 game, Vindication, gets 100 points this year. If it was number 3 last year, then it would get 97 points. Or is it 98? 98 points. We'll get 98 points. Basically, I inverted the numbers, and that's your score for how it tracks over time. And so to that end, my top 20 games of all time, now understand the highest possible score would be 400, because that would reflect being number 1 4 years in a row, which there wasn't one. And so to that end, jumping from number 20 and working our way up with understanding that the highest possible score would be 400, and our number 20 is going to be Brass Lancashire at 289. Now it's worth noting, by the way, all of these top 20 have all been on the list every single year. So even though you can get a score of 289, even if you weren't on the list ever, it is going to be harder for you. And in this case, the top 20 games of all time across 4 years, aggregate scores, those are going to be ones, they happen to be ones that were on the list every single year for 4 years. For 4 years straight. So, Brass Lancashire Birmingham, 289. Food Chain Magnet at 290. TAC at 294. Codenames at 296. El Grande at 298. Bruges at 307, Spirit Island at 330, Blood Rage at 338, Marvel Zombies Zombicide as a system at 343, Coimbra at 348, Lost Ruins of Arnak at 351, Everdell at 354, The Castle of Burgundy at 358, Rurik Dawn of Kiev at 362, Too Many Bones at 365, Cyclades at 371, Vindication at 374, Inish at 383, and Cthulhu Death May Die has actually been the highest aggregate score at 387 points, which kind of makes sense when you think about it. Like last year and this year, it was number 2. And the years before that, it was also high. So it has consistently held strong, which means as things like Vindication and Terraforming Mars fluctuate a bit, Cthulhu Death May Die about this whole time has shifted up to the number 1 spot in terms of an aggregate rating across 4 years of time. This is something I'm going to be doing every single year, talking about where things are. In case you're not interested in that flash of the pan rating of how Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. feels in any given particular time at September 28th, when he starts putting the lists, this is a slightly more permanent than that. Only slightly more permanent. And then from there, that was 20 titles, but we have an additional 21 titles that have still been on the list every single year. So there's 21 titles. Now to be very clear, it's also so clarity, the next 21 are titles that have been on the year every single year, but they are not necessarily the next highest ranked. Meaning, as I went down through this list, I think I just did the top 20. I think I had to get to around 23 or so before I got to a title that was number 23 in terms of the ranking, but hadn't actually been on the list every single year, which, like I said already, mathematically can happen. But anyways, so to that end, from the 21 titles, from the additional 21 titles that have been on the list every single year, meaning even if they were lower down, they still have managed to held strong, we have the following. We have Valeria Card Kingdoms at 132, which means it has been lower ranks, but it's been here every single year. We have The Crew at 135, Lancaster at 139, Dominion at 144, and again, reminder, those are your average ratings across 4 years. Higher numbers are better. So we have Lancaster at 139, Dominion at 144, Watergate 165, Istanbul at 187, Root at 191, Parks at 192, Carson City at 200, Hanmakoji at 202, Kemet at 204, City of Spies at 207, Rum and Bones at 221, Arena of the Contest at 226, Machina Arcana at 236, Trois at 240, Concordia at 243, Marvel Champions at 246, Dune Imperium at 251. Dune Imperium has been on the list for 4 years? Sometimes I forget how long I've been doing YouTube. It still feels like I just started, because I did just start. The Quest for El Dorado at 268, and Through the Ages at 279. Those are the additional 21 titles that have made the list every single year. And that is your top 100 breakdown. The biggest rises, the biggest falls, the drops, the additions, the changes, the things I forgot to mention, the games I haven't played, and then the games that have been consistent, and or your average rating across the past 4 years. And that's basically a top 100 recap, your top 100 analysis, recap, whatever you want to call this video. And I hope you've enjoyed. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And as always, I hope you have a good one.